Welcome to this talk. I'm Matthias. I'm a technical product manager at K15T. I worked a lot on our IssueSync app, Backbone IssueSync for Jira, and I got to know various scenarios where people wanted to collaborate across Jira instances. So that's what I want to talk about today, about cross-company collaboration. All these scenarios have in common that they're actually like between different companies, and we live in a complex world where there's often no easy way to accomplish one goal. Not one single company can simply produce their product anymore, not like it maybe used to be. So more and more companies need to collaborate closer to achieve their goals. Often there's the question, how do companies exchange information? How do they ensure a good flow of information? How do they make sure that everyone is really up to date with the most up-to-date information? So with all the changing and multiple partners, most people don't want to switch their toolset for every project they're doing, but they want to rather concentrate on what they have in their own environment with all the settings and all the specialities they're used to. But how do you ensure that everyone knows what needs to be done? Who will do it? Let's say both companies even use Jira, since we're here in an Atlassian world right now. How do you bring your Jira projects together? Do you copy and paste the changes into an email, and the other partner copies and pastes it as well? I guess that's more like it used to be, hopefully. If you're still doing it like that, maybe this talk is really for you. Solution which I'd like to present to you is synchronize, like sync, don't swim. Don't swim in the dark without knowing the state of your partner. Don't drown in manual updating the issues. So automated synchronization takes away the manual and error-prone work. Your partner is always up to date, and so are you. There are multiple IssueSync apps in the marketplace. I'll concentrate on Backbone IssueSync because that's our solution, but in general, the examples are also possible to do with other apps. So it's the concept behind it. Let's talk about the examples. Example number 1, connecting with a supplier. An insurance company wants to connect with their software provider. So they both use Jira, Jira software in that case. They want to be informed about the current state. But they don't want to share all the issues of their Jira. They want to concentrate on single ones. They work on some tasks themselves, and for some, they would need the help by their software provider. And the software provider likes to keep working in their own Jira to keep it simple for their employees as well. So what's the solution? They use an IssueSync app and install it in their Jiras. And with that, they have the automated issue synchronization flow, and they don't need to manually update the issues. In order to share the progress, they set up a mapping between the different workflows. You can see here like the workflow on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, and how you can map them to each other. So for example, the blue statuses on the right-hand side could just be mapped to the in-progress state on the other side. They also don't want to share like all the issues. So what they wanted to do, like with a JQL, you can really restrict what issues you actually want to select and want to share, and therefore, like you can then specify that specific JQL in order to really select the issues which you want to sync. Example number 2: a small consulting company wants to synchronize with a big bank. So the main need for the consultants and the consultant company is good documentation, good communication, both internally and externally. They want to make sure that internal comments really stay internal and the external ones are being shared. The bank, on the other hand, is quite restrictive in installing or in allowing to install their apps. So there's no app installation possible. How can they still communicate? There's still a solution. You don't need to install the app like here with Backbone. You don't need to install the app on the other side. Backbone's remote license just allows you to connect still to the other side as long as it's reachable. in order to discuss comments internally and externally, they use here actually the standard Jira comment restrictions. You can see that at the bottom here. You might know that so that they restrict which comments can actually be shared, and the issue sync app then respects these restrictions and only shares the comments which are publicly or really visible for that certain user group. Use case number 3. This is even more restrictive in a firewall situation. Let's say an automotive company wants to synchronize with their supplier. They're both really big companies, and their Jira is not accessible outside of the company's network. So they can't really connect to each other. At the same time, they also want to see the progress of the provider, so they want to keep up to date. And they want to ensure that their own employees, so the automotive employees, shouldn't be able to edit all the information coming from the partner side, so that really the data consistency is guaranteed. How was that solved? In that case, Backbone introduces here a way of communicating around that firewall, you could say. So since it's not directly accessible, using a file share or emails, Backbone can communicate still the changes from one side to the other side. This way, they can still keep their Jiras locked and still have a way of communication. About the fields and the data integrity, this one is a bit more technical. So if you're a Jira admin, you might know what I'm talking about. If not, maybe this point is not exactly the one for you. But in order to update fields, these fields have to be on the edit screen of a project. However, everyone can then update also, everyone who can update the issue could then also update the fields of the other partner. And so with Backbone, you can also configure a transition so that Backbone always uses a special transition screen, which is only visible to Backbone. And so all the other usual Jira users can't really edit these fields. They can only edit their own fields, what they should see, and all the fields exchanged by the partner can still be guaranteed. Example number 4. This is an example where a first-level support team in Jira Service Management wants to connect to their in-house development team. Could also be external, doesn't matter too much in that case. The service desk agents want to escalate some tickets easily to the development team when needed. Whereas the development team, they don't want to care about writing every comment exactly so that it's understandable by the customer, but rather concentrate on the information so that the agents can then communicate. So you could probably guess it. You can also use an issue sync app for this use case. And here now, when a ticket is created, let's say maybe a fire broke out and they need some help, they can escalate it to the development team. There's a button up there. And the issue gets automatically synchronized then to the development team's Jira. A developer actually sees the ticket and can write some comment in the Jira software. So for example, oh yeah, you could use a fire extinguisher to stop the fire. The comment gets then synchronized as an internal comment into the Jira Service Management project. You can see the internal marker. And the agent can then act accordingly. He can then really write it in a good way or tell the customer, oh, the next fire extinguisher is actually at this corner. Hopefully the agent doesn't need to ask for help like that. Example number 5. As a product company, you might want to be transparent to your customers. You have all the issues in your one product project. So that's the truth, where you can plan in all your features and so, but it's hard to probably share that whole project with your customers. You are interested in getting feedback so that customers can watch, vote, or comment, but you just want to be that some issues can be shared with the customers, maybe some cleanup tasks you don't want to share, or some internal discussions. So what can you do? You can also use an issue sync app here by creating 2 projects so that you have an internal project, which is visible to all your internal users, and an external project, which is then just visible to everyone else, who you want to let have a look on that. And then you set up a synchronization between both of them, and they can still communicate then all the state which you want to share. You can also limit the shared issues again with a JQL, and then like add a button, for example, to your usual Jira UI, so that it's easy for all your developers to share the issues, or for all the product managers, depending on your workflow. And for comment visibilities, in that use case, like we also use Backbone like that. We actually set it up so that we only synchronize comments from the external project to the internal project, because like we are more caring about getting all the feedback into our internal side. When we actually want to reply to a customer, we then log into the external instance and still comment there, but then we don't need to worry every day about, oh, who's gonna see this comment. Then we can just use it that way. So that's 5 scenarios, just 5 examples, and you can probably tell you can combine them with each other. I've just highlighted some parts in some specific cases. What's your scenario? Like, you might have other combinations. I'm happy to answer your questions about that or talk about the scenarios in detail. Yeah, please let me know if you have any questions. Go for it. Yeah. There's a mic coming.
It was a great presentation. Like one of your aspect where you want to have an external project. Somehow in my use case, we felt an overkill. So we used the same project, except that we added the security levels. So we basically logged it when you don't want to share it with a different team. Yeah. But pretty much the same thing. But also we made a policy within the team that if something has to be really private, like that you don't want to share, then it has to really hold the ground. If not, we, like within the team, share it with the users. It doesn't hurt. If we have a bug within our system somewhere, which is fine to share, but only if there's a vulnerability that you don't want to share, only then we try to keep it private. Yeah. But I'm just curious on, is there any other reason why you had to spin it up into a different project?
I think the main difference actually is like you can use this issue security levels, but then it's always on the issue level, and you can't just share like only some parts of your issue. So if you just say, maybe like also like we set it up to share the summary and the description with everyone, and I'm not sure about some other data, but then you could say like you want to share some data, but maybe have some internal steps which you don't want to share, because that, like, if you're talking about a vulnerability issue, for example, you probably don't want to share the steps to reproduce, but you still may eventually want to share probably that there was a vulnerability. So I would say if you really want to go deeper on that level, what to control, I want to control on the field level, what you want to share, then this would be an option. Otherwise, go for the issue security levels. That's, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Just a second. It takes a little bit of time.
That's all right. I could be loud enough from Matthias could hear him. Hey, can you hear me?
I can.
I thought everybody would, benefit from a Zoom call feeling. Anyhow. So, Matthias, my question was around the aspect of security. When so we work with a lot of banking clients which have a lot of additional security compliances that they need to follow based on the geographies that they're working on. How can so I'll give you the use case, then I'll probably come to the question. So the use case is obviously they want to have the 2 Jira instances for the consulting company and the customer bring on the same page. The problem is because of the complexities in security and guidelines, legal guidelines, we are not able to do that. So we end up doing the same solution that gentleman mentioned. We end up either creating a separate account for them in our instance, or we go and create an account in their instance and work through it. How can we find that loophole fixed in terms of security? And the biggest one being the version mismatch, because a lot of these companies are still working on the data center on the older version, and we are on the cloud with the latest version.
I think we have to watch the time a bit, or it's okay. Just about the version differences. The good thing here is I can only talk about Backbone in that case. We use the Jira REST API, which is quite stable, and there are some differences between cloud and data center, but that's basically handled within our app to communicate between the different instances. So that's what we take care for, so that you can still use Jira 7 or Jira 9, which will be released anytime soon. Or, about the other details, maybe we can just keep talking afterwards.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, great. I think you can ask also some questions in our break. So we're lucky that we have a live event, so we can really talk face to face.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matthias.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.